This is my new collection of sculpture, probably the most abstract work that I've done so far. And there's several narratives that are running through this show. Most importantly, I think to me, when I started the work, I was thinking a lot about the connection between species, the relationship between humans and animals, the relationship between nature and humans and animals, and the cycle of how, of how that all sort of connects and interconnects. So this work is a very abstract depiction of people and perhaps animals, which has an ancient history. Animals have been so important in our lives for thousands of years. If you look back at the old cave paintings and the earliest stories of humans, animals have figured so prominently. So these sculptures are made out of branches that the donkeys have chewed, my donkeys have chewed. I throw branches in for them in the wintertime, and then they chomp away at the bark. And I think of them as my collaborators in this work. And some of the sculptures I'm holding in my hand, these felted balls that are made with donkey hair, and some of them have them inside the sort of head portion of the sculpture. And I'm excited about these felted balls because for about 18 years I've collected donkey hair that I've brushed out of the donkeys in the springtime and not really known why or what I would do with it. But they kind of represent, to me, thoughts or ideas or matter or organic matter. And then I think the other narrative, or one of the other narratives that's running through the show, is the idea of displaced people and animals and refugees and people and animals in migration or fleeing from regimes, cruelty, perhaps ecological disaster, fires. We often hear about the people that are on the move, not so often about the animals that are on the move. But of course, even through human development, animals are constantly being displaced. So I think of this grouping as a grouping of people and animals that have, come to this place and have gathered together and are perhaps leaning against the wall, perhaps resting or waiting. Maybe they're waiting to be processed, or maybe they're waiting to figure out where they're going to go next. So it is a lot about that kind of, and the news is full of this idea of, or stories about caravans of people coming up from South America and people fleeing from countries all over the world. While I was working in the winter, I learned that there are actually 71 border walls and fences all over the world. So we hear about Trump's wall, but really there are so many walls. And so the walls were actually a really important part of this installation for me. And really reflecting on that idea and how it could possibly get worse. I like to blur the boundaries between plants and animals and in my work, and I've done that for a long time. And so again, I think this is probably the most abstract depiction of that. But it could be like, these could be walking sticks, or they could be people, or they could be animals, or they could be plants with seed pods on the top of them. So, and I like to kind of blur that and offer that as a possibility too, because really it's all the same, And then we were talking about the shadows, and shadows are so important to me in my work, because I'm looking for adding another presence in a way. There's a kind of scribbling that happens on the wall because of the shadow. There's another dimension, almost a ghostly thing. And it also talks about reflection. So if you picture the wall as mirror in a way, so the shadow is is reflecting the piece back again. The technique that I'm using for this is called random weave. And that means basically that there's no pattern. So I'm taking strands of material, whether they're vines or reed, and I'm trying to create order, but it is a chaotic kind of order, which is really what our lives are about anyway. We're always trying to create order from chaos, I think. And so the beauty in the fact that there is no pattern is that everyone is different, and everyone is a kind of a process where you're almost trying to tame the material and create space, but there's space within the structure as well. So there's form, but it's a very hollow, open form too. So that's been really fun. I'm quite addicted to this idea, this technique right now of random weave.
I guess my question to that would be, after a session of doing random weave, are you left feeling exhausted or are you left feeling enlightened?
That's a great question. I think art making embodies all of that and more. Sometimes people say to me, oh, you must be having so much fun. And I think fun is an element, but only one element. So, it's exhilarating, it's depressing sometimes. It's really everything, and I think that's why I love it so much, because it takes you through, if you're focused and you have some sort of intention behind what you're trying to say and express, I think it takes you through the whole gamut of human emotions. And then I really enjoy the kind of the non-verbal expression of art making too, which, as I said before to you, Mike, is very much about, is very similar to having a deep relationship with animals. We need to converse on a different level when we're talking to beings that don't speak English, so it's about body language, and so the body language in these forms, even though they're stationary and static, is something that I try to work with too. I try to create gesture and I try to create relationships, and I haven't done it before with just sticks, and so that's been really interesting, because some of them have an inherent kind of lean or twist to them, and other ones don't. And maybe that's like who we are too. So this exhibition is titled ANIMA-L. So it's really a play on the word anima, soul searching, and the word animal, and easier to read than to say. And it's here at the Denman Island Art Center through Tuesday, August 6th at 4 o'clock.